All right. So, Lions, welcome to our weekly roar. I want to introduce you to my boy, Bubba Stallcup. We are members together at First Baptist Church, Marble Falls. And when I first came about 8 years ago, Bubba was doing a little bit of everything. He was doing some sound and some worship and you name it, because the man got mad skills in all kind of areas, right? That's about right? Probably.
I tell people all the time, like, man, I was, my wife and I, we just make really good church workers because we put everything on a resume like absolute idiots, and we will turn around and do almost anything that we're asked. And so
pretty much. Yeah. He was like the toolbox utility man, can do a little bit of everything. And so blessing, yes, really good for ministry, but so it's hard to balance out when you got like about 13 kids. So how many kids again? How many?
I think 13 feels right. I think if you actually counted them, you get to 4.
Get to 4. Okay. That's there's always a fight who has the 4 and the 5. We have some folks around the church and stuff too. But Bubba and I have been cool for a long time. We got different unique ways. So for most of you guys know, for the last 15 years, I have a faith-based fitness studio, which is like, what? How you do a faith-based fitness studio? What does that look like? It's funny because I first started with members of my former church. And then when I opened it up to the public, it was I remember doing an orientation. I had 27 people signed for my first outdoor boot camp that was open to the public. And I can remember getting ready to do this orientation. And I was like, oh, these ain't all church people. Do I still pray? And I felt the Spirit of God say, I brought you this, give me glory. And I said, all right, guys, let's get started. Heavenly Father, and we just, laid the foundation of Christ in our workouts. And so I know for us, we've had thousands of people inside this great place of the Highland Lakes area here come through our studio, and some folks, different alternative backgrounds. I mean, right now we just had a lady join in, it's crystals and all these other things. Her husband's atheist, and no matter what, you're gonna get this Jesus, because you got Christian music playing. We got we're gonna end in prayer. We're opening, closing prayer, and it is a place for we're using exercise as a conduit, and I use the term minister in the marketplace. And Bubba has cool nuances to even with that too. So we talk about love thy nerd, love thy nerd. So Bubba, tell us a little bit about what does that actually mean, brother?
So Love Thy Nerd is an organization that me and 5 of my friends started. It was about 5.5 years ago we started this, and it was birthed out of a previous ministry called Game Church. That was not at all what it sounded like. It was not a church for gamers. It wasn't a church inside of a game. We advertised at that time going on video game mission trips. We didn't do that either. I mean, what we did was we took people into a convention experience. We call these nerd culture experiences now and events. And so we took them to these NVEs. And what it would do is it would give us a chance to be inside, not outside, telling people that Jesus loves them. And that we say inside, not outside, because that's super specific, right? Like outside people are picketing and telling everybody that they're going to hell for the things that they like, right?
Right.
And so we are inside saying, man, hey, we also kind of like those things. And so let's find some common ground and build relationships, right? And so that was about that started in 2012. Game Church did.
Okay.
Fast forward 5.5 years, and 6 of us that were either heavily involved on the volunteer side or on staff, break away to start Love Thy Nerd. And Love Thy Nerd, this is our mission statement. We exist to be the love of Jesus to nerds and nerd culture. And it's so specifically vague, right? Because your mission statement should be about that vague. It should tell everybody what it is that you're going to do, not how you're going to do it, right?
Right. Create the curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. Wise man once told me, keep them guessing. And so we keep it vague so that we can do a billion different things. And I'll tell you real quick, there are 3 major things that we do. We do thoughtful content. So we've got a website. Calvin's going to share all the information about that. lovethynerd.com. And if that sounds like King James version and all stuff, that's just as cheeky as we took it, man. We were like, hey, let's push the envelope a little bit here.
Right.
And
right.
so lovethynerd.com has got written content. It's got audio stuff. We got podcasts. We got videos. We have hundreds of hours of content for you to consume if that's something that you're interested in, to help you think more thoughtfully and Christianly about the content that you consume inside of the nerdy realm. Like, the latest season of Loki or Ahsoka that just came out, or man, we got a ton of new stuff that's coming out. Are you reading comics? Are you collecting Funko Pops? Are you playing video games or board games? Like we cover just about everything that we can in that nerd sphere. So we've got that. We've also got a radio station that just, streams 24-hour radio, ltnonair.com. I didn't share that with you, but you can get to it from the website. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we do. It's just content. We have about 7 podcasts that are on our network active right now, with more coming in the future. We love to create content because people are consuming it at a rapid rate. So that's what we do, is thoughtful content. Next thing we do is intentional community. If you've, Calvin, I don't know, you've ever seen this hanging above my kitchen. We have a board that somebody in our life group made, and it says, "Welcome to the Koinonia house." Koinonia is my favorite word in any language. Much like Verus is not an English word, but has a lot of meaning truth.
It means extreme torture. No, it's funny when people ask me, what does Verus mean? It's extreme torture. That's my first answer, of course. But no,
I used to think it meant like a black and orange vehicle that drove around town. Yeah,
that would be it too as well. But yeah, it is. So Veritas, one of my favorite words, of course, means true, but it wasn't too many syllables, and we just wanted something that was two syllables that got to the point. I've always been, just give me the truth. I don't want to be lied to. Give me the truth. I hate liars. And so that was just one of the things, the truth will make you free, and that's, so all those things just made sense when it comes down to Verus. But so saying that, you hear nerd in nerd culture.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going back to the 80s, Revenge of the Nerds kind of thing like that. But that word has translated to something new and different in this era and stuff. What does it mean to be nerd culture, or in a nerd atmosphere, a nerd sphere, like you said?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it kind of goes back to what I was kind of just talking about a little bit with the koinonia, the intentional fellowship. That's the meaning of that word.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where for so long we've had people from the outside world, and this is true in so many areas of life, right? I happen to work in nerd culture, but so many areas of life, we have people from the outside of that specific area come in and tell you that that's not okay, or that's not Christian, or that's not the way we're doing things around here. They bring their outside understanding of the world, right, wrong, or indifferent, into your specific space. And so that creates a lot of animosity between that group and any other group. And so nerd, you're exactly right, man. Like Revenge of the Nerds, and the dorky kid with glasses, or thank you South Park for this. You've got the 40-year-old virgin that's in his parents' basement, naked on a beanbag chair, eating Cheetos, playing World of Warcraft, right? Like that's like, of course, that's what that person looks like. I met somebody the other day, probably about a week and a half ago, and first of all, my name is Bubba. I don't look like a Bubba. I don't speak like a Bubba. I don't act like what anybody thinks a Bubba would act like. So I threw them off there. And they also knew that I was, love thy nerd. And they're like, man, you don't look like a nerd. And I was like, this is what I've been trying to tell everybody, right? Like everybody is nerdy about something. And so all we've done is we've reclaimed that word. It's no longer derogatory. I have to tell people, okay, listen, like we should lean into this. This is the 4-letter word that we're allowed to say, right? Like, let's just kind of lean into it. You're not offending me. You're not offending anybody else.
Right.
And I'm not trying to drag everybody into it. Like, you're a nerd. You can come do the things, because you're going to be very uncomfortable if you're not a very specific kind of nerd, right? Like if you don't like comic books, video games, board games, or pop culture, you're completely out of your depth. But I tell people, like, you want to know what you're a nerd about? What is the one thing, Calvin, you think about this. I think I know what it is for you. What is the one thing that if you leave a conversation and you didn't share that thing with somebody, you feel like you've let them down, you've done them a disservice? That's the thing you're a nerd about. 100%. That's when good. You're like, next time I talk to that person, I'm gonna talk to him about this thing. Or whenever there's a lull in the conversation, you're like, I'll just bring this thing up. It's so easy for you, right? Like that's the thing you're a nerd about. You know the most about it. Some people are Bible nerds, like legit, right? Some people are nerdy about gardening. Some people are car nerds, or, you know, like a foodie and stuff like that. Like, what's the thing for you? I think it's fitness, man. Like,
there's a point. I said it for the longest. Like, I'm a body nerd. I say it all the time because I love it. So you know Dr. Stuart Nunley, who was prominent dentist in our area itself, and I asked him one time, I was like, "Can you like have a conversation with someone without looking at their teeth?" Is that can't help it. So I'm looking at people when they walk in. I'm looking at their structure. I'm looking at what their dominant shoulder is, and which, if they have a gimp, if they're walking with this limp, he's probably got an ankle problem. He's got a knee problem. He's got this going on. You know, because I'm not just a
can't turn it off.
Yeah, I can't turn it off. I'm not just a fitness guy, but my background in sports medicine. I have a master's degree in sports medicine, so I've dissected the body from inside out. I know it. So it's between, and I say this all the time because, you know, I kind of have X-ray vision. When someone says they have a knee thing going on, I can see through because I've dissected it. And so I'm somebody who's overweight. I'm like, man, I could change your life. You know, I wish I could just walk up and say, hey, fat girl, come here. Are you ticklish? You know, what do I just say? Man, I can change your life if you just give me some time. And, you know, so yeah, that's definitely part of it is getting into seeing that, but behavior, you know, I've studied human behavior for so much, you know, identity and purpose and all those things and how people tick and what, you know, what things emotionally, especially with men, you know, as I know God has taught me to work with men, we're not taught how to feel. We're not taught how to really, what are really emotions and things of that sort too. But yeah, but if you go all down to it, how do I direct the body in the right way? You know, offer my body as a living sacrifice, as it talks about in Romans, you know, chapter 12, you know, 12:1. Offer my body as a living sacrifice. So that is something that's intentional, and it's something that comes out with me. And so, yeah, as you say that, what is it that you just can't help but to talk about? We nerd out about something. You know, there's something that really, you know, and I'm glad you brought it to fruition, because I'm thinking to myself, nerd culture first mindset is, you know, video games. And because now first, so I'm 47. I had grew up with in television.
Yeah, boy.
In television, Atari, and regular Nintendo. And so, and I was done after that. I did all the play, but I was actually a few weeks ago, I did a lesson about like being focused or something. What I was going to talk about Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I legit was the first guy in my neighborhood, in my school, to beat Mike Tyson because I was dedicated. I took Mario, played for 3 minutes, got rid of that, played Tyson, and I was the first guy. So I was dedicated because I'm going to first guy. And so love the game. And actually the guy, Little Mac, the character, I was so little, I was a 4'7", 82-pound freshman. So I legit had to fight like that. I had to jump and punch people in the face. So I related to the game, and there's probably something that, you know, I saw my character inside the game itself. So
absolutely,
I'm sure, you know, when you see all the different games. So past that, I legit, last video game I can play, football is 10-yard fight. Basketball is double dribble.
Dude, wow.
I miss
double dribble.
Yeah, I miss Techno Bowl. I miss all the NBA stuff. And I used to be able to play what you call it, Street Fighter, pretty good.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
And that was on was it PlayStation 2 or whatever it was. Yeah. So after that, I'm done with the video game culture. However, my kids. So I have to be aware of this because as you say, community. Now that games are online and these communities and people are building and things like this, who are they interacting with? How are they interacting? What kind of guys are you playing with? You know, what kind of folks are out there? What are the dangers? So these are things that you know, that brings me into it, as well as like wanting to be educated on it.
Oh, absolutely. And that we tell people all the time, it's like, look, I really don't care if you're into video games or not. You should be interested in what's going on in nerd culture. And that's not like a wag your finger, but it's like, do you have kids? Right. Are you a youth leader? Are you involved with youth in some way, shape, or form? That used to be the only avenue. Right. Calvin, the average age of a gamer these days is 38 years old. The average age. 38. And almost 50%, I think it's like 48.555% of people that play video games identify as women. And so this social construct that we have around video games specifically is just wrong, right? Like the statistics don't back it up. Yeah. We talk about how fringe it all is, right? And well, that's, you know, when I was when I was a young man, I did what young men did, and now I'm a man, and so I put away childish things, and we like to pull out the Bible and do all that stuff. And I'm like, you got to understand, like Mario landed on U.S. shores 37 years ago.
Dang.
Some of us have not known a life without Mr. Mario, right? And so the idea that just because an older generation doesn't do anything anymore, right? Like a certain thing anymore, doesn't mean that other generations aren't doing it. And so this understanding, this concept is actually helping me to not just think about, I'm considered an elder millennial, and I don't like that I don't appreciate that. Okay?
You're an old young guy.
I'm just like, it's a weird time to be alive, my guy. And so like, you're Gen X. Okay. And I'm millennial. And so the younger millennials and also the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, we're seeing that they're becoming like increasingly relational. I mean, increasingly relational.
Wow.
In a time of social media where you or I and people that are older than us will look at that and go, well, they're just completely disconnected from everything. They're always on their phones. They're the most connected generations that have ever existed, because they live in the age of information and they have it at their fingertips. And you look at it and you're like, no, they're not building relationships. They're not connecting with people.
Because they're not doing it like I did.
Would you? Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like I did. That's why me and my dad sit on the couch and
Or, I mean, if you think about it, what was it like when we were kids, man? Like, and like you're in my brothers are your age. Okay. Yeah. There's like a 12-year gap between my brothers and I, 10-year gap. And so for them, they had no way digitally to connect. So they had to go outside. And usually that meant getting in a lot of trouble. I mean, a lot of trouble, right? Like some stories that just aren't fit for television. Right. And so now it's like, how connected do you have to be with people, right, wrong, or indifferent? Okay. Like, I'm not saying that it's perfect. It's the silver bullet, but how connected do you have to be with other people to want to share a picture of your food?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't care about that. And so that's me. I, as a 37-year-old guy, I have a hard time with social media.
Yeah,
I do, because I'm like, man, I don't get on and post again. Like we were at somebody's birthday party, my nephew's birthday party the other day. And, my sister-in-law, she said, is anybody filming this? It didn't even cross my mind to film it, because I'm there and I'm in the moment.
Right.
But she is much younger than I am. She's a younger millennial. And her first thought was, we need to be recording this so we can post it. And I'm like, I did it. I didn't even think of that. And so as we start to think about, like,
the cameras up again, she's like, do the cameras up, go do it again, redo it.
Man, we were close. we were close. We were close. And so, like, this idea of this connectedness in the generation that we're in, it really comes down to how you and I connect with people in our sphere. And my sphere, my personal sphere, happens to be nerd culture. And even if it's not yours, getting back to the original point there, right? Even if it's not yours, it is somebody else's in your life. Right. And so, like, for me, dude, fitness is not my like jam. I can't tell you, anybody's watching this, I can't tell you how many times Calvin has been like, hey man, come to Verus, let's get you set up, let's do all this stuff. We trained for Tough Mudder stuff together at one point. Like we were kind of doing things. I felt like I did all the things I needed to do. I tell people all the time, I was like, dude, I got a wife and 4 kids. I don't know what else I got to prove to anybody. Like I think I did it.
Right.
But I know that's important to you, and I know it's important to other people, and I know other things are important to other people that I want to have relationship with. And that's the crux of everything. Nerd culture for us, it's a medium. It's a means to an end. If nerd culture was to go away, we would just have to find different ways to build relationships with people, because we believe that that's exactly what Jesus did. Was he went around and he built relationships fast. And so we practice that. We legit practice that sometimes, but it's all about, like, people are never going to care about the things that you have to say, no matter how deep or profound they are, until they think that you care about them, right? They don't have to know for a fact. Just when they get the inkling that you care about the thing, then they're going to be more receptive. And the way that we show that we care is by showing that we care. Exactly. When somebody brings something up, don't go, yeah, I don't know anything about that. I'm not interested in that. you lean into it. You ask questions, you know, be inquisitive, right?
Get to know. It's funny you say that, even just leaning into, like, guys my age don't understand why I enjoy playing flag football and pickup basketball. Like, as you said earlier,
I talked about this on
a couple weeks ago. As a child, like, I legit scored 6 touchdowns. I was going for my 7th.
I think the word is dominated.
I was dominating.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not just out there being fluffy. I can go. I can still go. You know?
Yeah.
But we glorify LeBron because he's 38 or whatever it is. And he's like, I can still play these games and play well. And so most guys my age, and I had this at the church. I remember when I was probably 39, 40. I remember telling guys, hey, you know, we still play flag football on Sundays. And when a guy, I want to say who he is, a little bit, a few years older than, and it's like, what are you again? I was like, 40. Yeah, it's about the same time I stopped playing flag football. I was like, is that the same time you started getting fat?
I mean, dude.
Don't poo-poo on what I do. I'm just giving you an invite. You ain't got to poo-poo on my invite. You know what I'm saying? But what's endearing is, as you're saying that, because of the physical fitness and because of the training, there's a lot of guys I'm looking at their faces that I've been able to mentor and been able to preach the gospel and been able to spend time with them. Like, just there was a Sunday, Mitch Earwood, who's moved back in the area. I've mentored and coached his kid since he was in 10th grade.
Oh, wow.
I've gone and watched him do all these things. So Mitch is now married, and I just was there for his baby shower that he's getting ready, expecting. Like, I've walked through life with this young man. Calvin McDaniels. You know, I had you're one of his mentors as well. There's guys that mentored that young man. Been knowing him since 9th. They're so great. So, but he's been at Verus. He's done, you know, activities with us. He's, you know, certain things in that culture, whether it's ultimate frisbee, whether it's flag football, or whatever it may be, that, you know, Tough Mudders and things like that, you create these relationships. So in the same way, you know, for me, doing the hard things, but also like in communication with you know, the nerd culture, there's a lot of communication in the games and in these things like that too, as well, that we can often overlook because it's in the, like you said, in the fringes of ministry, in the fringes outside of what I was taught early on, what ministry looked like is in the pulpit, on the mission field, evangelism, and done.
Well, I mean, you and I, we were talking about this 2 weeks ago, and you'd mentioned earlier that you do marketplace ministry. And I was like, hey, that sounds like a thing that we do, but we don't call it marketplace ministry. We call it passive discipleship. Right. And so basically what it boils down to is this, is like, I'm going to tell you on the onset who I am and what I'm about. We're going to get to the point where I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know Jesus loves you. And once we get over that awkward moment, and it is an awkward moment, right? Once we get over that moment, any other time after that you decide you want to hang out with me, like, you're going to see what I can interpret to the best of my ability, what Jesus would or would not do as I rightly divide the word of truth. And not if, but when I mess up, you're going to see me kind of deal with that. And so it's one of those deals where I just want people to understand in a big kind of way that you don't get to take off your Christian hat and put on your real life hat. Like, if we're Christians, we're called to be Christians all the time. We're called to go unto all the nations, you know, preaching and baptizing. That's what we're supposed to do. And in my particular space, I don't get to decide when that is and is not. And so we see these digital lands like rising out of this sea that we call the internet and nerd culture, right? I mean, seriously, man, you go into a video game, it's an entire new world that is there. And people are spending collectively, Calvin, try and wrap your head around this, and anybody else who's listening, trillions with a T, trillions of hours a year playing video games, just video games.
Wow.
It is a multi-billion, we're talking in the 30s, multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay. It's not going anywhere. Right. And so the best thing that we can do is try to understand it. Try to understand why our kids maybe don't want to go outside and kick a football, but do want to stay inside and play on a controller or on the computer or whatever. Now, make your kids go touch grass. I make my kids go touch grass.
Okay.
I do. They need some so they need some stuff from the sun. They need all that vitamin D, everything. They need all of the stuff that comes with high energy workouts. Okay. And I'm not turning into the fitness guy, but I learned this with my eldest son. He got in trouble and I just made him start running laps in the backyard.
Yep.
And I was like, hey, dude, you're just going to run until you throw up. Like that was how big the issue was that we were having. And so he ran and ran and ran and ran and ran around the trampoline. When I started counting, we counted to 100 laps after that. And I didn't start counting for a while. He ran for a long time, Calvin. But at the end of it, dude, I mean, he was hurting. He was sobbing. And I was like, oh, okay. Hey, you're going to feel this for a couple of days. And hopefully that's going to help you to kind of understand and remember the choices that you've made and not to make them again.
That's good.
It almost had the reverse effect though. Like it was a real good parenting moment for me, I thought. But he woke up the next day, perfectly fine. That night, he was the best he'd been in a very long time, like a very long time. And I'm like, oh, okay. He just needs to get out there and get his blood flowing. Yeah. He needs to do, I don't know. He needs to, kind of break up that lactic acid that's built up in his body because he lives a very sedentary lifestyle, right? Like,
right.
But in that moment, it's like, man, this is a nerd. He fits square within what I'm talking about, what I do. But he still benefits from another perspective. He still benefits from another side. That's good. So think about that on the other side of it, where it's like, man, maybe your kid plays football, but he could build really good relationships if you held a Madden tournament at the end of your football season at your house.
Well, that's Chase. Chase is all day playing, whatever games, playing Madden, playing these games, but he's also an athlete, so even that cross culture of things like that. For me, I'd rather do a puzzle. That's something for me is more of a puzzle. Yeah. But like I said, it just doesn't excite me to do the game stuff like that. But I know it has to be available. And it's funny, something you said earlier that made me think about even our callings as we're supposed to go and preach the gospel to all the ends of the world. Not everybody has a calling in particular ministry. I can remember at my former church, or even Billy Perez, when Billy was a missionary over in Honduras. Yeah. In the worst of the worst areas. I'm going like, yo, I ain't called to do that. You know what I'm saying? Billy was in with the drug dealers, the crazy people naked and coming at him and had to fight folks in ministry. Yep. Like this is what his ministry, and he loves it.
Loves it. Wants to go back.
I mean, he loves the bloody nose and the you want to pray now? I'm fighting with the inmates. And then let's pray. Like, I love you.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's built different.
That's totally different. But once again, I mean, you couldn't put him in some kind of posh ministry that's just he's not built that way. No. But once again, it's like all the different things that folks do. Like, I'm getting a few things here. Jason Boyd, my boy Jay Boyd, says for him, I know he does this thing, collecting transformers and Medicare retirement investments. So he does
for real
and stuff like that. One thing, Jim Bird from our church, he asked a question. He said, "What made y'all first connect with your mentors?" Interesting question.
That's a great question. And the sad thing is for a very long time, I didn't have anybody like that in my life. Just real quick, because man, what a story when you start talking about your life. Yeah. I grew up in a broken home. And so I learned, probably not for the best, right? I learned how to just trailblaze on my own, and just move forward. Didn't have an active, steady male presence in my house. And even I actually was just talking to my dad. Calvin, did you get a chance to meet my dad when he was down this past weekend?
No.
Okay, I thought you did. All right. Yeah, I was standing next to him and broke off to come and talk to you. Not this past weekend, last weekend.
2 weeks ago. Okay.
Either way, it was one of those things where I never felt a lot of animosity towards men in my life and leaders and like authoritarian figures, but I just found a way to do things myself. Okay. And it was a very long time before I let other people in. And the moment I did, I wish I could tell you what that moment and that change was. And I don't. Probably somebody telling me I needed to, right? Yeah. I'm I'm a white knuckler, which just means that like, what's the best way to do it? Just to do it. What's your 12-step process?
There's some guys watching here right now that I know personally that would do the same thing. So yes.
My 12-step process is to do it 12 times. Like that's my thing. And so, because I know that if I don't start something, I will never do it. The hope and the thought of doing something is not motivating enough to me. And so somebody probably somewhere was like, hey, you don't have a mentor? You should get a mentor. You're mentoring people and you don't have a mentor? That's a problem.
Yep.
And so I actually kind of went overboard. I've got so many people that I let speak into my life on both sides of any coin you want to choose, right? Yeah. I have people that are faith-based that speak into my life. I have people that are ridiculously secular. So I've got the sacred and the secular that speak into my life. Even in social media, I'm following things that I do agree with, and I'm following things that I absolutely do not agree with, because I like to have a balanced view on things. I don't sway very easily. Again, my background in growing up, I've never been master manipulated by anybody in my entire life. Had that conversation last week. That was a fun one. But it's one of those deals where like, I'm not going to go, oh, that sounds really good. You're reasoning me into your side of the argument. Right. It's like, I didn't reason into where I'm at right now, whether it's Jesus or anything. Like I came by experience through it. And so you're not going to reason me out of it. And so it's okay for me to be able to kind of hear both sides, because I deal with people on both sides of the coin in my life. Yeah. I got church folk that I love and that are my best friends in the entire world. And I do life and ministry and all that stuff with. And then there's literally the 10 times as many people that I deal with on a daily basis that are not those things. Yeah. That don't care about any of the things that these people care about, whether it's, a traditional family unit, or it is, spending time with your family, or not chasing wealth, or loving people well. These people are the opposite in almost every single stretch of the imagination. And so it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to deal with these people, I have to know and understand where they're coming from. Not so that it's like, oh, I got the fix. Right. But so I can relate to them. Right. In some way, shape, or form. It's like Paul says, I become all things to all people, that by some means I might win some. Right. And so it's this idea, it's all this maybe, might, could, probably, but then you go back to the beginning. It's like, if I don't, then I never will. And so my mentors, plural, they've pushed me in that direction. They've allowed other people to speak into my lives. And I will tell you, I've got a lot of silent mentors in my life, because I don't ask people very often if they'll mentor me. One of the silent mentors in my life is our worship pastor, Dory Stubblefield. It's his dad. Like he'll just say things, and then I'll just be like, that's the best idea I've ever heard. I'll just go do that thing. Yeah, he'll drop a wisdom bomb on you, like, bam. Calvin, he reconciled with his son on Super Bowl Sunday, and this guy's a football fanatic. Okay, specifically Dallas Cowboys. He reconciled with one of his sons on Super Bowl Sunday. Missed the entire Super Bowl to reconcile with his son. And so when he comes to me, and I'm in Dory's house as this is happening, and he's doing it across the street, I'm there. I'm experiencing it, going, hey, where's Mikey? Where's Mikey? When he comes to me and says, Bubba, you need to call your dad. Yes, sir. I will call my father. Because he's not asking me to do anything that he wasn't willing to do himself. Like he reached out and he reconciled in hard times. And because of that, listen to your mentors, kids. Because of that, my dad was down here 2 weeks ago. And my dad literally called me last night when we're trick-or-treating. My dad and my stepmom called me last night. And they're like, hey, they've been gone 1 week. They're like, hey, how would you guys feel if we moved closer? Wow. Listen to your mentors, right? Like, it's good. Like men need their fathers at any age. Men need their fathers. And so me at 37, I'm like, come on, let's do it. And so like, it's wonderful. Like what drives me, Jim, to listen to my mentors, the outcome when I let other people that I love and I trust. We're not talking Job's friends here, right? That are just, oh, here's why things are going bad. Here's the list of stuff that you've done. But when we let like people that engage in koinonia with us, right?
Yeah.
They're intentional fellowship. We're like-minded. They care. They don't just love us. They care. Like, you know, I love cake. I don't care about cake. I love it. Right. But people that actually care about my family, they care about the outcome of the decisions that I make. Those people speaking positively into our lives will only benefit us. But it's up to us.
Or are they willing to kick us in the nads when we need that as well?
The ones that I have are.
Yeah, mine definitely are. Yeah. Good balance
That's
across
a great
the board.
question.
So, yeah, great. Thank you for that, Jim. I'll say the same thing. It's like, but it's so timely that you're saying this right now too, as well. But you don't realize, like I grew up with my dad. My parents split at 6th grade. I stayed with my dad. My mom moved away. So dad has always been, opposite. Dad has always been there. And, you know, the book Wild at Heart talks about the father wound, you know, a lot of times happens at a young age. I didn't get mine until as an adult. Because when I left my former ministry, my dad kind of played the middle ground. Like, I'm not getting into that. And so it's hard for us to have, it really did hurt our relationship. And even recent events right now that we've just recently had, like he didn't even know, I didn't even call him and tell him I had be real, just straight being transparent. I didn't even tell him I had a knee surgery.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm sure my sister told him by now and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, you know, just a few conversations we have. Just sometimes it's so surface because, you know, where things are. But like I said, we still got to make that right. And I try my best to make it right. But it is hard because where we stand, you know, where you're okaying something that was destructive to my entire family.
Yeah.
And so it's a hard dynamic there. I want to honor and respect, you know, I'm not going to ever, you know, disrespect him with everything, but it's a thing where even right now, you know, we're still in some things where I'm really okay with not talking to him for a while. But
so I've been there, dude.
Yeah,
I was there, and I don't know how long you've been in that sphere, but I usually
I've been in the First Baptist Church of Marble Falls.
So, okay, all right,
yeah, 8 or so years. I mean,
so that in my family unit, I hope this is beneficial to anybody who's listening. In my family unit, that is normal. 8 years, 10 years, 15 years to go without talking to people, or to kind of weave in and out of it during that period. It's like I'm pretty sure that my family created cancel culture. Like we're just so good at it. That like, oh, you did something I like, now we're done.
Yeah.
And so I looked at that and I was like, man, I want to break that cycle, because I know that I need my dad, and I know that my kids need their grandparents. Because again, super I mean, most of y'all may or may not know. I don't know who's in this group or whatever. But
all men, all guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I don't know who does and doesn't know my story. So like my mother-in-law, my wife's mom passed away 5 years ago in January, right before the birth of our youngest son, PJ, 10 days. And so it was devastating for 1,000 reasons. But I called her mom. I'm sorry. My mom passed away 5 years ago from stage 4 pancreatic cancer 5 years ago. And then Anna's mom passed away 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago in January, from a car accident suddenly. And so like, I called both of them mom, because they were moms. They were my moms. And that's my life, right? Like, you come up in a broken home. And for me, I was just like, my kids have tons of uncles. They've got tons of aunties. I've got moms and dads. I have no problem. I called freaking Dory's dad. I call him dad.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, I don't even ask permission anymore. I just do it. And so it's one of those things where like I lost all of these people in my life. And so when something comes back into the fold, this relationship with my dad, like I'm like, I want that. I need that. Like I'm gonna heal all of that hurt, because it is so easy for us just to not talk. And my sister said this, last thing I'll say on it, because I could say 1,000 more things. My sister said this. She calls me Bud. She said, Bud, I hate having to be the one that's the adult all the time with relationships with our parents and stuff. And I was like, well, I said, sister, here's the thing. When we were 15, I mean, I hear you. We had to grow up so fast. I get it.
Yeah.
But we are adults now. And so we are allowed to act like adults. And if we need to do the things that adults do and start conversations and initiate, we may be their kids, but we are still adults. And so taking that onus onto ourselves and not waiting for other people to make a move. I think I bring that into my ministry. I absolutely do. Not waiting for somebody else to take that step, not waiting for somebody else to make it okay, not waiting for somebody else to talk to me. If I feel like there's something that God's calling me to do, period.
Yeah.
I step out in faith and I do that thing. Or at least that sounded like really definitive. I try.
Do your best. Yeah.
I try.
Yeah, there's intentions in it.
Sometimes I don't do it. Let's be real. Sometimes I live in a little bit of a Jonah moment, but for the most part, it's good for us to step out and just do the thing that God is calling us to do. Because every single time I'm in this conversation with you right now, because at the age of 33, I said, hey, this is my Jesus year. I'm going to grab the bull by the horns here. If I've only got one more year to live, am I satisfied with what I've been doing?
Come on.
Have I been doing the thing that God's called me to do?
Pour it out.
And guys, I worked at a church. I'd worked at a church for 12 years. Okay. At that point, I'm at First Baptist Church and I'm doing technology ministry, right? I'm the technology director there. I'd been doing it for 8 years. And I said, no, I'm not doing the thing that God's calling me to do. Actively in ministry. I believe he brought me to that point to do a thing and to get it to a spot and to do great things in that, meet good people, all sorts of stuff. But am I fulfilling God's call in my life? The answer was no. So I pursued the thing that I needed to do. And it was not easy. When I started doing this, Calvin, the very next year, okay, so October of 2019 was when I stepped away from my position. In February, late February, early March of 2020, COVID hit.
Yep.
Dude, I walked away from job security. I walked away from a paycheck. I walked away from benefits. I walked away from everything. And it was in that moment that I was left with the decision. Do I want to try and kind of get back into it? Do I crawl back? What do I do? And I had a couple of people even ask me, hey, are you sure that this is something that you want to be doing right now? And I was like, I know that it's the thing that God is calling me to do.
Come on.
So because of that, I'm going to continue to do it. And I think that God's blessed that. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, I know you got an event coming up. Before we talk to that, Wade hopped on here. I got the link in there, about to drop it, but Wade hopped on here. Wade, you have something to share? A question for Bubs? Or are you just listening in?
Oh, I was just planning on listening. I do appreciate your candidness and your just sharing your story, because it's helpful for people to hear it, especially for people who struggle with relationships, because we all have those family relationships we struggle with, and so it's always helpful to hear how other people like yourself are dealing with it. It just always encourages people. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and thanks for doing all my insurance. So.
You bet.
I guess we're even now.
Yeah, I get to share lots of great news with people every single day. So your news is better.
And it's funny because Wade and I had this conversation. We talked about even what does it look like to be more intentional with our faith in our business. And we look at that. You niche. They say the riches are in the niches, or if you're known as that guy. It's a sacrifice. You may lose some clients. You may lose some people. I'm sure not everybody's going to come in the doors of Verus because, we are forthright with what we do. But what does that look like with anybody in business? It's being more forthright with their faith if it's something they can control. Obviously, if you work for an organization, there may be limitations on there. But if you're doing your own thing, like say Bubba was called out of traditional ministry setting to do this, and it's uncomfortable and it's difficult, and the timing never seemed right. But God provides. He shows himself mightily in the answering and obedience to the call in our lives too as well. So, and sometimes that means doing things in a different way where we have different things. So you have this summit that's coming up here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Next week, if you're listening live, okay, November 8th, 9th, and 10th, we're doing a thing that we call the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit. It's going to be held at First Baptist Church in Marble Falls, 901 La Ventana Drive in Marble Falls. And it's the first of its kind. It's not the first of its generic type, you know, because again, I've been doing this kind of stuff for about 10 years altogether. And it's important for us to be able to reach into the life and lives of other ministers and to meet people on the ministry level at their church and tell them, hey, 2.6 billion people on the planet, according to census data, say that they are Christians. Okay. That's under a third. Okay. We're kind of lacking there. 3.2 billion people, according to hard digital login data, play video games. Okay. They're in your church.
Right.
The numbers are there that they're in your church. And so what we want to do is this is an awareness campaign for us to say, hey, the people are there. They exist in your space. If you are a ministry leader, we made sure not to say church staff or whatever, because some people are lay people, some people are part-time, you know, bivocational, whatever you want to say, however you want to call it. We would just want to give you the tools and give you a network of people that you can kind of meet with and talk with and join and say, hey, you can do this. You don't need us to come in and do it for you. Let us train you. Let us equip you. Let us embolden you to go and love these people well, because, hey, maybe it's also your thing. And even if it's not your thing, maybe there's somebody in your church who it is. So with that in mind, we're even saying, hey, for every organization that registers, we're giving you a free +1. Bring somebody. I don't care if it's your uncle, your auntie, your wife, your kids, your youth minister, your missions pastor. I don't care who it is. Bring somebody with you, because what that's going to allow you to do is more easily cast the vision when you go back home. Right. How many times you come back from a conference, be like, oh, you'll never believe. And they're like, sounds really cool. Guess you had to be there. Yep. What if somebody was there? Right. So that you could kind of have that conversation with them and, you know, bring that person with like a missionary model, right? Bring that person with you back home to share the experience. And so that's the idea. November 8th, 9th, and 10th, you can go to ncmsummit.com for more information. Love for you to be there. Awesome. Absolutely.
That link is in there for you guys too as well. Both links for Love That Nerd itself and the summit itself. Both of those links are in there if you guys are in the area or would like to travel to the area. It's not, you know, it's a beautiful place. If you haven't been out to the to Marble Falls area, you'll enjoy being here and hanging out with Bubba and his crew for that event itself too. But if guys want to connect with you more, I know we have websites there, but like on socials, what place would they go?
Yeah, so you can find us online on all the major social media platforms at Love Thy Nerd. That's THY, Love Thy Nerd. And you can go to lovethynerd.com for all the stuff that we talked about. If you want to get with me specifically, lovethynerd.com/Bubba. That'll get you all my socials. And if you want to book a time to talk with me, or if you want me on your podcast, or, you know, you want me to come and talk to your church or whatever, I would love to talk with you about that. And also, I don't just do church stuff. So like if you want leadership or motivational or whatever, we do all those things as well.
Awesome. Like you said, going to where they are, going to where folks are in their need itself too. So Bubba, appreciate you, fam. I know this is amazing ministry, amazing way to not just ministry, just a way to create those relationships, lead folks well, mentor folks well. And I'm sure you've had a lot of conversations that have come up where someone now trusts you and share their struggles and walk through some tough things. Cause that's my joy is working with guys through the tough stuff too as well. So I know that's part of it, because the relationship bears witness, you know, over the time too as well. So,
and once you get them, you can't get rid of them. And so just be ready for that.
Awesome,
They're around for the long haul.
Yo, appreciate what all you're doing, man. Guys, if you're interested in getting more information, all the links are in there too as well. Link with Bubba and Love That Nerd and all the crew as well. And let's go do awesome things in the unique, weird ways that God has called us to do it, guys. All right. Let me get close. Bubba, when close out, please.
Oh, I'd love to.
Thank you.
God, we thank you so much for this time, for this day, for people just like Calvin and all of the other people that are in this group that will hear this and any other, you know, talk and conversation that's had. God, I just pray that you would soften our hearts to the things that you want us to do, and allow our desires and our thoughts and our emotions and everything just to meld with yours. We know in Isaiah, you tell us that your ways are higher than our ways and your thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Who can know them? And so help us to understand, open the scriptures up to us, make us just ready for the things that you're going to do. And may they not be done in vain, whether on our end or in your name. God, may we just do the things that you have called us to do. And just keep coming back and thinking about scripture. And we know that you say that your word will not return to you void. So I pray that the things that we set out to do are the things that you have told us to do and nothing else. May it be like the Old Testament, where when you move, we move. If it's at night, it's a pillar of fire. And if it's by day, it's a pillar of smoke. Allow us to see it that clearly and to move right behind it. We love you, Jesus. And we thank you so much for all this and so many more things. We pray it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Bubba. God bless. Go hard. Peace.
Bye.
Stop here.